Hello, everyone. We're looking at the second Locke reading, chapter 3 and I believe 4 from Second Treatise of Government. This is some extremely challenging and complex prose. Locke is a great writer, but man, oh man, is it complex. So, what I do is what I was doing with Hobbes. I mean, in the Hobbes videos, just for my own comprehension, I read aloud to myself. And you should never feel, as a reader, the least bit hesitant to read aloud. You know, I mean, sure, we want to be, have some privacy when we do it, but people hear me reading aloud all the time. And they say, "What were you doing, talking to yourself?" No, I was reading. Reading aloud helps me. And so I thought, at least for part of this video, just as I did with Hobbes, I would just read it aloud and comment on it freely as we went. And I would encourage you, if you are having trouble with reading this, to slow down, read it aloud, think about the words that are being used, try to decipher the grammar and syntax of the sentence, and that'll help quite a bit, I think. Okay. Chapter 3 of the State of War. Already, it's quite clear that Locke has read Hobbes. There's just no question about it. Hobbes published the Leviathan around 1650, I believe. And this is written around 1690 or so, I think. So Hobbes is gone, but Hobbes is freshly sort of in everyone's memory, and certainly somebody that. So of the State of War is a reference to Hobbes. Remember, Hobbes thought that the state of nature itself was a state of war. What does Locke think? The state of war, let me make this a little bigger. The state of war is a state of enmity and destruction, and therefore declaring by word or action, not a passionate and hasty, but a sedate, settled design upon another man's life, puts him in a state of war with him, against whom he has declared such an intention, and so has exposed his life to the other's power to be taken away by him, or anyone that joins with him in his defense and espouses his quarrel. It being reasonable and just, I should have a right to destroy that which threatens me with destruction. For, by the fundamental law of nature, and that is a law of nature that Hobbes himself cites, which is not the law of nature that Locke was referring to in the previous chapter, in chapter 2, the fundamental law of nature of self-defense. For by the fundamental law of nature, man being to be preserved as much as possible, when all cannot be preserved, the safety of the innocent is to be preferred, and one may destroy a man who makes war upon him, or has discovered an enmity to his being, for the same reason that he may kill a wolf or a lion, because such men are not under the ties of the common law of reason. That would be a reference to the law of nature that Locke refers to in the second chapter, the law of nature that governs the state of nature. Because such men are not under the ties of the common law of reason. That is, anyone who is trying to destroy me, to kill me, has declared themselves that they are ignoring the fundamental laws of reason, the fundamental laws of nature, which is, we remember that you shouldn't harm anybody else. Because such men are not under the ties of the common law of reason, have no other rule but that of force and violence, and so may be treated as beasts of prey, those dangerous and noxious creatures that will be sure to destroy him whenever he falls into their power. So he's describing what is the state of war. The state of war is when somebody threatens me and makes it clear that they want to destroy me, that they want to kill me. And when that happens, I have every right to defend myself, right? I have every right to use any power, any capability at my command to destroy them before they get me. So far, this sounds very much like Hobbes' state of nature. But remember, for Locke, this is the state of war, not necessarily the state of nature. Next section. And hence it is that he who attempts to get another man to his absolute power does thereby put himself into a state of war with him. It being to be understood as a declaration of a design upon his life. That is, if anybody tries to completely get me in their power, that is equivalent to them trying to murder me. For I have reason to conclude that he who would get me into his power without my consent would use me as he pleased when he had got me there, and destroy me too when he had a fancy to it. For nobody can desire to have me in his absolute power unless it be to compel me by force to that which is against the right of my freedom, that is, make me a slave. So if anybody tries to enslave me, that is equivalent to them trying to kill me. And that if they try to enslave me, get me in, what he says, get me in their absolute power, that is a declaration of war against me. And then I have every right to do whatever I can, again, to defend myself. He continues, to be free from such force is the only security of my preservation. And reason bids me look on him as an enemy to my preservation, who would take away that freedom which is the fence to it. So if anybody tries to take away my freedom, that is equivalent to them trying to destroy my body, because it's my freedom, as he says, which is my fence. Yes, the fence to my preservation. If I am not free, I am not free to preserve myself, defend myself. He that, in the state of nature, would take away the freedom that belongs to anyone in that state must necessarily be supposed to have a design to take away everything else, that freedom being the foundation of all the rest. As he that, in the state of society, would take away the freedom belonging to those of that society or commonwealth must be supposed to design to take away from them everything else, and so be looked on as in a state of war. So anybody who tries to completely take away my freedom, again, they have declared war on me. Even if they haven't actually threatened my body, my life, it's the taking away my freedom is equivalent to it, because my freedom is all I can call upon, all I have to the fence to my preservation, the support to any attempt to preserve myself. Next section 18. This makes it lawful for a man to kill a thief who has not in the least hurt him, nor declared any design upon his life, any farther than by the use of force to get him in his power, as to take away his money or what he pleases from him. Because using force, where he has no right, to get me into his power, let his pretense be what it will, I have no reason to suppose that he who would take away my liberty would not, when he had me in his power, take away everything else. So if somebody sticks a gun in your face to rob you, you have every right to kill them. That's what he's saying. That is, in that moment, to defend yourself. If somebody puts a gun in your face, they are basically taking absolute control over your body, over your life. And even if they haven't, said, I'm going to shoot you, they have taken away everything you have. They've taken away your freedom, and it is equivalent to them trying to kill you. So you have every right to defend yourself. That is, as the thing is happening. And therefore, he says, it is lawful for me to treat him as one who has put himself into a state of war with me. That is, kill him if I can. This is pretty raw stuff, man. For to that hazard does he justly expose himself, whoever introduces a state of war and is aggressor. And so if someone tries to rob me, let's say they strong arm rob me or put a gun in my face or do something like that, they've basically declared war on me, and they've exposed themselves to my retaliation. Section 19, and here we have the plain difference between the state of nature and the state of war. Okay, so clearly Locke is leading up to this where he's describing what the state of war actually is, and now he wants to say, well, that's the state of war, but that's not necessarily the state of nature. Hobbes was wrong in making the two equivalent. And here we have the plain difference between the state of nature and the state of war, which, however, some men have confounded, are as far distant as a state of peace, goodwill, mutual assistance, and preservation, and a state of enmity, malice, violence, and mutual destruction are from one another. Men living together according to reason without a common superior on earth, with authority to judge between them, is properly the state of nature. So that's very good. We have a definition from Locke of what he means by the state of nature, and it's right there. Human beings living together, according to reason, without a common superior on earth, with authority to judge between them. Meaning basically the same thing as Hobbes, I would say. When there's no government authority and human beings are living, their lives, they're in a state of nature. But they have very different ideas of what that is necessarily like. For Hobbes, it is necessarily a state of war, a state of conflict, violence. But remember that Locke has said that human beings are basically rational creatures, that there's a law of nature. Even in the state of nature, there's a law of nature. And reason, which is that law, right, he says, teaches us all, who will but consult it, that no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. That is, that human beings know that. Not that they always live by that, but they know that in the state of nature. Whereas Hobbes would say, in the state of nature, which is the state of war, there's no justice and injustice. There's no right and wrong. There's no mine and thine distinct. So we see a big opposition here between Locke and Hobbes. So Locke continues, but force, or declared design of force upon the person of another, where there is no common superior on earth to appeal to for relief is the state of war. And it is the want of such an appeal gives a man the right of war even against an aggressor, though he be in society and a fellow subject. Thus, a thief, whom I cannot harm, but by appeal to the law, for having stolen all that I am worth, I may kill when he sets on me to rob me, but of my horse or coat. That is, if somebody has robbed you, you don't have a right to kill them. If somebody, because you have, in a state of society, because you can appeal to the law for redress. But if you're in the process of robbing you, then you have the right to defend yourself. He continues and says, because the law, which was made for my preservation, where it cannot interpose to secure my life from present force, which, if lost, is capable of no reparation, permits me my own defense, and the right of war, a liberty to kill the aggressor, because the aggressor allows not time to appeal to our common judge, nor the decision of the law, for remedy in a case where the mischief may be irreparable. Basically saying that, yes, in a state of civil society where there are laws, I cannot kill somebody who's robbed me. That would be, because I have the law to appeal to get justice and redress. But I have to have the right of self-defense, because as the thing is happening and somebody's threatening my life, the law cannot protect me then. Want of a common judge with authority puts all men in a state of nature. Force without right upon a man's person makes a state of war, both where there is and is not a common judge.